She's consumable her lifetime in the dark of a extensive facility of U.S. war bases in Okinawa, Japan's southernmost prefectural. She doesn't, yet, connect them in risk. He's wherever. As a kid, Urasaka took British classes following high school and skilled a planet complete of excellent-sized ice creams, hip-hop and prospect. Out of implementing it, U.S. civilization became portion of insameness how she's now pride of. But to lot older residents, who lived via the 1945 fight of Okinawa in Planet War II, such a favorable type of the US war present is inconceivable. In how fight, that lasted nearly 3 months and was one of the warfare's bloodiest, the Isle Circuit lose nearly a tertiary of its people, and for the following 27 years it would be held by U.S. military. In 1972, the U.S. refundable Okinawa to Japan's monitoring, but tens of thousands of U.S. military stay on many decades of installations. To lot of Okinawa's older population, the U.S. bases are related in wrath engendered by rapes, protests, and war accidents. They terror junior generations will overlook the hardships endured for the war and its ramifications. Fight of Okinawa. Urasaka's infancy expertise of the U.S. war couldn't be future of how of 90-year-old Yoshiko Shimabukuro, whose brisk behavior belies a tragical history. In her 221 of schoolmates and 18 teaching staff, she united Hime Yurigakuto Tai, Lilia Princess's undergraduate housing, a nurse block for the Empire Japan troop, in 1945 while she was 17. She mined the fight would be above in days. Instead of, she consumable months care to Japan soldiers who had limbs break off or their bodies crossed outdoor, excess wounds how done them whip out in delusion. Of the warfare, she'd just scientific how to packaging addressing. Although largest of the bloc kept the fight, nearly all were annihilated or took their own lives following the Japan troop diluted their units and said them to run. They mined U.S. soldiers would rape her them on seas. The girls, told Shimabukuro, weren't frightened of die. They privileged how to rape her. Shimabukuro kept by concealment in a hut into some students. While U.S. soldiers found them, she yelled out at them to murder her just to be solidly rebuffed. Undertaken to a U.S. POW camping on a litter, Shimabukuro initially resisted treat. She was established to discover a way to murder herself to flee the fault of surviving while so lot of her peers, and her sibling, had dead. Shimabukuro just found the will to dwell following listening her parents were live, but strongly injured, and necessary thoroughness. In spite all, she harbors no indignation to Americans, but the continuing U.S. bases present twists her. She believes it foliage Okinawa sensitive to overseas assault and wants the bases lost. They say the bases are in Okinawa to defend us, but we can't pardon them if they'll be leveraged to conduct out warfare, she told. The bases present continues to be a spike in the Japan by the government's relations in the U.S. On May 14, to mark the 45th anniversary date of Okinawa's refund to Japan, an alleged 2,200 protesters collected at the resettlement website of the contentious USC housing air plant Futenma, one of the senior bases, that has been a focus spot for against-base demonstrations. The new website will move the basis of a tightly inhabited city region. The protesters wish to halt the new installation of creature constructed. They trust it will harm the environmental and would quite the bases shut fully. Largest days, down there's a difficult mandrel of a pair of half a dozen protesters hard to halt building material of creature brought, the most old human beings love Yoko Kina, 77. She normally comes to the resettlement website 2 times a 1 week and says she's protested versus the US war present as length as she can recall. But Kina's wrath is aimed at the Japan by the government how supports the US present quite rather than the Americans themselves. This Abe authority tells us how polar Korea and China are hazardous, but he's the Japan by the government how's more than hazardous for us, told Kina, who lose her sibling in the fight of Okinawa. I wish Japan to be nice friends in China. Capstone of the silent the U.S. asserts its basis in Okinawa assist protect Japan and support world in the Asia-Pacific. the U.S. telephone call the semi-tropical isle 1,500 kilometers, 932 miles, of Tokyo, the capstone of the silent proper to its strategy position during the area. Shut to Taiwan, the Korean Peninsula and the disputed areas in the east and southward China Seas, Okinawa-based military and arms can be everywhere in the area in a question of days, if not several hours. In tensions boiling in Beijing and Polar Korea, Japan's hawkish Main Secretary Shinzo Abe remnant thirsty to support the US-Japan Association as an insurance coverage politics versus China's growing war might. But in spite the isle's significance to U.S. war policy, the U.S. military located on Okinawa had a impoverished path recording while it comes to winner the hearts and minds of the human beings residing down there. In the history year, U.S. war staff and citizen contractors work for US forces been charged of repeated crimes on the isle. Of January to October 2017, 2 were detained on concoction of looting, 2 on concoction of rape and 6 on concoction of forcible infringement, onto the Okinawa Prefectural Police Force website. Defenders of the U.S. war present claim how U.S. accidents and crimes are less rather than regional ones, and tend to get more than scope in regional clique and across the sea. Yet, however, officers are acute to hammer superior relations among U.S. war staff and regional residents. Training session within 3 vividly lit class in the US Camping Schwab, Japan students of different ages and backgrounds chat eagerly in U.S. Marines. They are there for their weak British classes. He's one of the lot coverage activities, on in festivals and sport games, organized by the U.S. Wars Society Relations crew. Each pair of year, a see does thing how makes us all see poor, told Wizard Sergeant Anthony Kamina, voluntary tutor. While you go to thing love the, you find out to humanize which's on the some party of the fencing. Kamina, who has been located in Japan for several years, is aware of the stereotypes, noisy, daring, U.S. military who go about love they own the location. He has seen Americans love how in Okinawa, but says the tag dong ti used to everyone. Poorest prefectural Urasaki, too much, knows the uglier party of the U.S. war present. In November 2017, a box bring down of a U.S. war chopper in the sportland of her child's younger top high school, that is arranged close the Futenma basis. Although no was wound in the crash, it landing 15 feet of a kid, accountable told, and it was quite for headlines and protests to flash once again. Urasaki's child wasn't frightened by the occurrence, instead of she was more than irritated how she couldn't conduct on game her football play. Yet, Urasaki told her child, whose deceased dad is us, began talk more than adversely on the U.S. present following the occurrence, anxiety taking into account her blended racing sameness. External of these events, yet, lifetime, says Urasaki, goes on. On a everyday base, the U.S. war present blends in the Okinawa scenery. Lot on the isle overlook there though down there. I include blended ego to the basis, I'm not proverb we wish them, but they are there. I wish to go striker in my lifetime and be success, says Urasaki, who's converted her own trilateral Okinawa, Japan and U.S. influences in an promising rap carrier. These days, she distances herself of the separating box of regional policy and produces piece of music in a versatile circulation. Time she's aware of which older generations endured, she wants some youths to go striker, own their blended identities and assist the isle evolve. She hopes the attention can change to several of Okinawa's some problems. The prefectural is Japan's poorest. Ordinary incomes are yet under the domestic norm. Low formation, top kid poverty reduction and youthful pregnant rates decay the isle's advance. He's essential, she says, how Okinawans don't be victims of their occasion both of history and this, but harvest the benefits of the basis present. Creature capable to say British outdoor up so lot doors for me. If all the guys in Okinawa could do how, we wouldn't be impoverished. If it were up to me, everyone on the isle would be 2 languages by currently, Urasaki says. If he's a policy for us to evolve an emotion affection to the basis so how they'll remain their length, they are success, since we make